Hello everyone and welcome to this installment of the Daily Cannon Tactics Board. Stephen Bradley here, bringing you the tactical tweaks and quirks that came about from a frankly ridiculous, unbelievable farce of a game between West Ham and Arsenal this afternoon, which finished 3-3 somehow. And this is very much a case of less of what tactics are employed and more about the players that are asked to employ them, because we were treated to 37 minutes of abject misery and then 53 minutes of abject hilarity, where it's just a sense of players not doing what they're told to do, and as a result conceding one really good goal and two very poor goals, and then doing what they were supposed to do, getting back into the game, getting it back to 3-3 and nearly winning it. It's very much a case of how much credit can we give this team for digging themselves out of a hole that they dug themselves? So we go to the game itself. It was an interesting team selection by Mikel Arteta, to say the least, because, well, two reasons. One, obviously, Callum Chambers returning to right back. With Bellerin fit, with Cedric fit, it's very much thought of that Callum Chambers is either a backup centre back or a backup right back. And it turns out that, as I've got arrows everywhere, this is going to take a while, that Chambers is not the most attacking minded right back, that he's there for his physical presence, he's there for his aerial ability, he's there for when teams put the ball into the mixer and other cliches, when they employ long ball tactics. He's there as an extra head, basically, to make sure that Arsenal don't get overwhelmed with an aerial assault. And it's the prudent thing to do. Arteta has done it before, and Chambers has proved to be quite effective in this role. He was never really an attacking outlet. Of course, we'll see later in this game that he can be, but he's a defensive choice. He's there to solidify this side of the field and lend a bit of, like I said, resilience into the team, so that if a lot of balls or a lot of corners or a lot of crosses are put into the box, they have an extra big man to be able to deal with it. And West Ham have scored a third of their goals this season from set pieces. They're very efficient at them. But West Ham themselves made a bit of a surprise with their formation, because sometimes against quote-unquote bigger clubs, and whether you want to label Arsenal as a big club right now, considering they're 10th in the league, is up to yourself. But usually West Ham play with a 5, with Cresswell here, and then it's usually Ben Johnson that plays at left wing back. And they play with a 5 and they protect. And even if they do play 4-2-3-1 like they did today, this will be Paulo Fornals, on the right wing. They will play another playmaker. They won't play another winger per se. Like they when they play forward at the back, they still try and go a little bit conservative. But this, with Lingard, Benrahma, Antonio, and Bowen, is their most attacking lineup. It's their quickest lineup, and it was picked to do one thing, and that was this. It was to run at Arsenal. It was for Soucek to do this, for Rice to do this, and it was to pin Arsenal back and basically put them as much pressure as possible. Just limit the amount of balls that Arsenal could pass, limit the ability for Arsenal to break a press and drive forward, and just make life uncomfortable. And that's exactly what they did. Like, Arsenal were so passive and so lacking of intensity or any purpose that it took until the 13th minute for Arsenal to complete their 10th pass of the game. Like, it was so passive, because they were just content with letting West Ham overrun them. Literally, just walk past them again and again. And the reason why this happened was because of the front line. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. Well, Stephen, how come, surely the back should be able to handle the forwards, but it's a team game, both offensively and defensively. And when Arsenal lined up, at least when the team sheets were printed, we all assumed it was going to be this. With Aubameyang in that inside left role, with Saka providing the width from the right, Odegaard, playing as the number 10, and Lacazette dropping deep. But immediately, when the game started, it was Aubameyang on the right and Saka on the left, and we all went, that's weird, because as limited a player as Aubameyang is, when he is able to run down this left channel, he is devastating. When he gets service on the ball, he's devastating, and to ask him to do that down the right, when you know that Odegaard's going to come here for the ball, you know Lacazette's going to drop deep. It means that now ask Saka to do the same when he's more inclined to run down that alley instead of down this one, which kind of limits Tierney a bit, because we all know how much Tierney loves this space to himself. So if Arsenal were to, employ that sort of tactic, then it's a little bit cumbersome. And we saw over the course of the first half hour where occasionally Aubameyang would go to the left and Saka would go to the right and Lacazette would drop deep and Odegaard would drop deep. But the reason why Arsenal were under such a cosh and under such pressure for the first 35 minutes was because Aubameyang didn't run at all. And he wasn't alone. Saka was passive as well. He was almost waiting for Aubameyang to choose which side of the pitch he was going to attack and then went to the opposite one. Lacazette was doing his best to try and link up the play, but he was getting no ball because, along with Aubameyang, Partey had obviously decided that this was going to be a Sunday game that he didn't play in either. It's a weird one for Partey, because you look at his defensive stats and he's made the most interceptions and the most tackles, but with the ball, especially in the first half, he was desperate because he was not doing what he was bought to do, which is get the ball to Odegaard and into the middle as quickly as possible. He was ponderous. He was taking his time. He was very loose, and shooting from goal. It's a job. It's a joke well made on Twitter by now, but he should be fined every time he shoots from here. Like, the ball could go anywhere, literally. And it was one of those games where Aubameyang wasn't playing the way he was supposed to play. Partey wasn't playing the way he was supposed to play. Xhaka, another player who had an off game in the sense that he was asked to do too much because Partey wasn't contributing at all. He was asked to do basically Partey's running, and that's not his game. He needs to be able to sit back, limit the amount of space he has to cover, and then hit long balls over the top. He wasn't able to do that, so he was almost having to cover for Tierney, who also had an off day. Like, we can criticise Aubameyang for not running all we want. Go watch the second goal again, where, Souček is fouled here, and Tierney is running with his back to the ball, giving out. So is Mari, and so is David Luiz, and so is Partey, and so is Xhaka. Like, he's not alone. But Aubameyang is here when Souček takes when Jesse Lingard takes a quick free kick and Bowen's in. Like, West Ham basically waited to see what wing Aubameyang was on and then attacked it, because they knew if he was on the left wing, Bowen had Tierney one-on-one, and if he was on the right wing, then Benrahma had Chambers one-on-one, because they knew Aubameyang wouldn't track back. And it happened again and again and again. And just to show you how little West Ham cared about passing the ball through the middle, look at this. They literally did not care about having the ball inside the width of the penalty area from the centre half, from the centre circle onwards. Like, they were literally picking and going down wings left and right depending on where Aubameyang was. And for so many times, Benrahma would have one-on-one with Chambers. If Partey came over to cover, no one was covering Lingard, and it was 2-on-1. And it was just a legacy of Arsenal picking a team expecting one West Ham to show up, but a different West Ham showed up. They picked a team expecting a West Ham that was going to lump down balls down the channels to be chased on, but they weren't. What happened was they were running down the channels, but with the ball. It was Benrahma and Bowen getting one-on-ones with Tierney and Chambers. And in this case, you absolutely would prefer Bellerin or Cedric in this spot, because their speed would have been needed as opposed to Chambers' physicality. And with Arsenal's midfield not being able to provide enough cover, and with Arsenal's wingers not tracking back with sufficient effort. West Ham went 1 and 2 and 3 up with relative ease. It with far too much ease, especially the third goal, a bone cross into Antonio, gets a good header. Mari watches the ball go past him, doesn't mind Souček, just sauntering past him at all, gets a foot on it and it goes in and it's 3-0. Like, this Arsenal team was playing with such a lack of intensity, it was frightening. It was verging, it's the worst 30 minutes I've seen from Arsenal in quite some time. And it was very interesting to see not only Mikel Arteta's reaction to it, but certain players' reaction to it. Because you learn what your team is made of in positions like this. You learn, are they just going to buckle? Are they going to just fold under pressure? Are they going to crumple? And the answer is they didn't. And they deserve great credit for that. Like I said, it's how much credit do you want to give them for digging themselves out of a hole that they already dug for themselves? But they did dig themselves out of the hole. And the way they did it was by playing the way they were supposed to. Well, most of them. Aubameyang, when it went 3-0, decided, look, I've had enough of sauntering around on the right. I'm going to stick on the left wing. I'm going to play here. And anytime we get the ball, I'm going to go inside. And Lacazette's going to make it a 2. And Tierney basically has all this space to himself. And the difference came because Aubameyang kind of sort of started trying to make an effort. But Saka woke up and immediately started making these runs through the channels and around. And for simply doing this, Cresswell now has to come in. And all of a sudden, Callum Chambers suddenly realises that he actually has to attack in this team as well. And then for the next 55 minutes, basically turns into Trent Alexander-Arnold. And pumps in glorious cross after glorious cross after glorious cross. And the first goal comes directly from the fact that Cresswell leaves Saka, lets him get leaded in. Cresswell comes in here. Chambers has a decent cross on him. West Ham don't give him any credit for it all. Benrahma doesn't track back because he never does. Chambers has Lacazette gets in the middle and it's a great finish. Does he get lucky with a little bit of a deflection? Yes, he does. But if you don't shoot, you don't score. And afterwards, they nearly made it 3-2 because Lacazette was doing what exactly he was picked in the team to do, which is come deep for the ball, drag a centre-back with him so that someone ran in behind. And we will see the effect that Arsenal had on this on Arsenal's heat map because, yes, they had a lot of the ball here, especially Xhaka here. Partey not so much. But this line here shows exactly what Arsenal will plan on doing. Because Arsenal's whole game plan was getting the ball here and having two players run in behind. Having two players and run in behind. And then it would be up to Lacazette and Odegaard to find them. And even though at 3-1, after half-time, West Ham tried to close the lines, every time the midfield dropped back, the defence would also drop back. So there was always this 15 to 20 yard space between the two. And Martin Odegaard showed why he is so highly rated. Because again and again and again, he showed for the ball. He was not afraid of looking for the ball. He was not afraid of putting his hand up and getting into tight spaces and saying, give me the ball, I'll try and do something. Give me the ball, I'll try and create something. And even when he got the ball here and Souček and Declan Rice would try and crowd him, he has the ability to play in these tight little spaces, get the ball out and get the ball to Saka or get the ball to Chambers. And for 45 minutes, Arsenal did whatever they wanted down this right-hand side. All because they couldn't keep control of what Odegaard could do because they were scared stiff of him shooting from 25 yards after his goal against Olympiacos. You can't blame them. But anytime they tried to close on him, he had the ability to break out and find this ball in here or find this ball in here. And it's a shame that it took them 35 minutes to figure this out because They got to 3-1 and then got to 3-2. And you're like, ooh, they have a chance here. And at 3-2, after Craig Dawson scores an own goal from another magnificent Chambers cross, Arsenal, Mikel Arteta decided to make some changes because he's like, I'm sorry, this isn't working. I'm getting some control over the game, but I need to make a change. And it was a brave one. Because Smith Rowe came on and Pepe came on. And Pepe went right wing and Smith Rowe went left wing. And Odegaard went here. And Partey basically said, on you go, mate. I have this. I'm probably going to get overrun, but I'm going to do my best impression of a good defensive midfielder. And that's why he was able to rack up all those interceptions and tackles that you'll see. And Odegaard basically went here. And Arsenal dominated West Ham for 30 minutes. Now, they did get caught in the counter once or twice, but that's just going to happen when you've got three back. With Tierney trying to spread the kind of left, Chambers again now turning into Cafu, as Jamie Carragher called him, on the right. He was doing this. It just required someone to link it all together, and that's why Odegaard is so crucial to this side, because he is 18 months to 2 years further along the development curve that Smith Rowe is. Like, if Smith Rowe turns into the player Odegaard is now, then you will be very happy. But Odegaard has so much more potential ahead of him that it's insane. Like, he's already played more league minutes for Arsenal than he has Real Madrid. Yet he's able to control games like this, no bother at all. And it's just a case of, A, can they manage to convince him to stay? Maybe it's maybe they can convince Real Madrid for another year loan at least, just like they've done with Dani Ceballos. Or if Real Madrid have to sell him to raise some funds for their own transfer dealings next summer, then can Arsenal afford to keep him? It's catch-22. You want to be able to afford a player like this, but the better he plays for you, the more Real Madrid are going to want. Like, are Madrid going to want 40 million for Dani Ceballos now? No, because obviously they're not getting that. But they're going to want more than 40 million for Odegaard. And like I said, for 30 minutes, Pepe was superb, bombing in through this right-hand channel, getting in the cross for Lacazette, who was, again, superb. When players did what they were asked to do, they were superb. When they didn't, they were awful. And I don't know how much of that you can blame the manager for. Like, can you blame him for not preparing them well enough and not having them in the right mindset to attack the game for 90 minutes? Maybe. But when you've got Alexander Lacazette coming out immediately after the game and saying, we let him down. We didn't start the game, that's on us. What can you do? And yes, Arsenal did really well to get it to 3-3, but like, Mikel Antonio missed from there. So, yes, Arsenal did really well to get it back to 3-3, and yes, it's a decent point against a rather good West Ham side who played excellently for 35 minutes. But if what this game should show you is that two things. One, good God, we need Odegaard to stay because he's an excellent player, and if Arsenal are to build something for the future, then yes, they need players of his calibre. And B, we knew this already, but maybe this is further confirmation. I don't know how much longer you can play Lacazette and Aubameyang in the same team. Because when Aubameyang doesn't score, he does nothing. It's either pure result and end result and happy days, or nothing. And today we got nothing. And when he's the captain and he's the man on the biggest wages and he's the man who wants to lead the line, etc., etc., when he contributes performances like this, I don't know how much longer you can facilitate that. Especially if you've got players like waiting to play exactly in that role. It's getting to the stage where decisions are going to have to be made. We're in the middle of March over who you want to keep in this team for next season. And if Odegaard is one of them, then a lot, a lot of big decisions need to be made in the summer: who you want to keep and who you want to sell. And if Callum Chambers' performance today and Cedric's performances over the last couple of weeks have made you think that Hector Bellerin is not indispensable, then he might be a transfer fee that would be very welcome. If you're looking at Saka and Smith Rowe and Odegaard playing as your 7, 10 and 11, then you've got a decision between Aubameyang and Lacazette. And right now, as it stands, I'd pick the Frenchman. I wonder what Mikel Arteta is thinking at this time right now. We will talk to you next time, viewer. Good luck.